my latest piece for Talking Sports, the host of New York Sports and Rhymes, Greg Landorf, right here, covers a variety of topics, including Joe Mauer seeking out steroids to increase his power, the dysfunction behind the Landon Collins situation in New York, which was figured out today as he received a 6-year, $84 million contract from the rival Washington Redskins. Good luck attempting to cover Evan Engram twice a year, or even worse, Odell, once he shakes free from Josh Norman. This is a classic example of the Redskins overpaying for a player who no doubt is talented and now gets to suit up in the same uniform, wearing the same number as his idol, Sean Taylor, who was taken from this earth way too early. Best of luck to you, Landon, and thank you for everything you did as a Giant. Despite a 13-54 record, I illustrate reasons why the future has never been brighter for the New York Knicks. A story that is important to me is the Robert Kraft situation and how people love to get caught up in petty nonsense rather than looking at the big picture. Robert Kraft is a good man, and I explain why. This episode also covers a story from 2 years ago, Bob Costas being let go from NBC and not being allowed to cover Super Bowl 52 for shedding light on CTE. It shows who calls the shots in the NFL. Since I recorded most of this newest piece in Farmington, Connecticut, at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, where I graduated from this past fall, in Stratford, not Farmington, yet I went to see a concert in New Haven the night before, so I decided to record in the state-of-the-art facility in Farmington, and the importance of home field advantage in both sports and rap stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Finally, with free agency officially beginning on March 13th, I urge New York Giant fans to trust the process and show faith in General Manager Dave Gettleman. It's ludicrous to say the man doesn't have a plan. I explain why Hillary Clinton and Eminem's character from 8 Mile, B-Rabbit, are eerily similar. Despite the major conferences yet to play their final tournaments, I've decided to bless you with the March Madness preview, focusing on a few frontrunners and a few sleepers who could make some noise in the tournament. There will be a slight conversation about the New York Mets since spring training is underway. Sorry, Yankee fans, you'll have to wait for my interviews as I refuse to cover a team whose owner, George Steinbrenner, may he rot in peace, served as the role model for our current president, Donald Trump. I can only hope Donald will join George sooner than later. Finally, with free agency officially beginning on Wednesday in the NFL, it's only right to ensure my audience is up to date regarding who is signed where and what to expect during free agency. What to expect is safeties are getting paid an astronomical number, and whatever you think is a lock is probably the exact opposite. So you're getting sports, rap, and politics, all without cursing, to expand your mind, as that is the very point of New York Sports and Rhymes. I'd like to thank Quantum Networks for this opportunity, along with Roku TV. And without further ado, I bring to you Greg Landorf's newest segment on Talking Sports. All the hype this NCAA season has surrounded one man, Zion Williamson. The hype is real, as I have yet to watch a basketball player such as Zion. Too bad this isn't Lauryn Hill's son, as her decision to keep Zion would have been 100% confirmed if it was. There's a reason the tournament is called March Madness, and this year won't be a letdown. The 4 number 1 seeds will be Gonzaga, Virginia, UNC, and Kentucky. What's great is all 4 of the teams can lose, and most likely will lose at some point during the tournament. Kentucky is the team out of this group to watch out for, especially since they've gotten better with time. The Big Ten is likely the most dominant conference, with plenty of firepower to account for. The SEC might be the most interesting conference, especially with Tennessee emerging as the top team in the nation. Then there's Auburn, who isn't in the top 25, but is capable of beating any team in the country on any given night. Let's not forget about the Big East, where Villanova is always a threat. Despite a recent losing streak, Marquette has flashed signs of their D. Wade and Steve Novak days. What? Since the conference tournament hasn't started, it's way too early to give predictions. Besides Duke, who boasts a lineup of 4 freshmen that will all be first-round picks, including the top 2 overall picks, Zion and R.J. Barrett, a.k.a. the Maple Mamba, teams either have a plethora of experience or talent, some with a combination of both. In college, success comes down to coaching, talent, belief, and magic. Teams have control over 3 of the 4 factors. Pay attention early on to the teams who don't get flustered easily and play system basketball. Otherwise, sit back, relax from taxes, fill out your brackets, and enjoy March Madness. This is Greg Landorf. That was New York Sports and Rhymes, and I'll return with a more detailed piece on this subject at the appropriate time. Nick Foles signed a 4-year, $88 million deal, $50.2 million guaranteed, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Redskins broke the bank, signing strong safety Landon Collins to a 6-year, $84 million deal, completely changing the market for safeties. The Chiefs then followed suit, having to up their offer to secure free safety Tyrann Mathieu with a 3-year, $42 million deal. It's a scary tandem playing alongside Eric Berry. For a contender not to receive a discount is semi-eye-opening, especially when Eric Weddle signed a 2-year, $13 million deal earlier with the LA Rams. Then again, the Redskins and Landon Collins set a crazy precedence for the safety market, causing free agent safeties to ask for and probably receive more money. Speaking of safeties, they are flush, with 4 remaining in Pro Football Focus's top 25 available free agents: Earl Thomas, Adrian Amos, who's coveted by the Giants, LaMarcus Joyner, and Clinton Dix. It's not a joke. This seems to be a defensive-heavy free agency with talented O-linemen to be had as well. Let's not forget about the prime free agent, running back Le'Veon Bell. Where will he go? Houston or the New York Jets? The Bell Cow's former teammate, Antonio Brown, is on the move after his wish was finally granted, getting traded to Oakland and receiving a brand new 3-year, $50 million deal. We have one more day until free agency officially kicks off and signing becomes official. The biggest mistakes teams can make is investing heavily in free agency, hoping to return to prominence while ignoring cap ramifications. Free agency is meant for plugging obvious holes, getting better in specific areas, and building the proper culture for your organization. Free agency sets the best teams up to have the most successful NFL drafts. This is Greg Landorf, and that was New York Sports and Rhymes.
Here's some keys to the New York Mets' success in 2019. Manager Mickey Callaway is surrounded by a ton of experience with this year's coaching staff. Jim Riggleman is his assigned bench coach. This is a clear sign to Mickey. You can't blow ball games with talent as such. The Mets are already experiencing a noticeable difference with new hitting coach Chili Davis. If this Mets team believes that they're World Series contenders, they can hang with anyone. The NL East might be the toughest division in baseball. Excellent. This will only make the Mets better. The bullpen appears to be dominant, which is night and day from last year. This leads to significant changes from a starter's perspective, as does run support. Looking up and down the lineup, it's hard not to see the Mets manufacturing runs, even though that last statement felt wrong to say. Then, the return of Yoenis Cespedes, around the same time he became a Met in 2015, it's not something to think about at the moment, yet can pay significant dividends down the stretch. This is a team he wants to return to, and the Mets play better when Yoenis is in the lineup. Plain and simple. Cespedes is unfinished business dating back to 2015, and now that he'll be healthy for the first time, I'm excited to see him get the chance to deliver. Here's the Mets starting lineup, or what it's projected to look like as of now. Peter Alonso and the explosiveness he brings to the plate, along with his work ethic he carries to the field, is undeniable. Alex Cora recently said Peter Alonso is probably the best hitter in Florida right now. Let's take a moment and digest that statement from the manager who just won the World Series. The Mets are in dire need of a young, exciting superstar, and Alonso seems to have all of the intangibles. Then you have Todd Frazier as a backup, or Dom Smith if you need a glove, and all of a sudden Dom Smith is willing to play the outfield? Seriously, depending on the rest of Smith's spring, how is he not a major trade piece for teams in need of a starting first baseman? If I were the Yankees, I'd look no farther than Flushing to secure my healthy, left-handed first baseman of the future. Greg Bird, fly away. Robbie Cano, I want to see him get as many reps at second base as possible. I really don't want to see Cano at first base. Ahmed Rosario, you're the Mets shortstop. Do not feel pressure from emerging talent in the minors. Jed Lowry, the Mets have lacked an everyday third baseman since David Wright. You can play a pivotal role in the Mets' success. Brandon Nimmo, despite not being an everyday right fielder, happens to be the 6th-ranked right fielder in all of baseball, according to the MLB Network. Juan Lagares in center field, I'd give the man a chance. You have Carlos Gomez and Keon Broxton as backups. Also, what to do with the bat of Jeff McNeil, who flourishes wherever you play him. You can't play him at center. Now you can't play him at third, especially with Lowry being injured maybe to start the season. You could also platoon him in right field and left field, yet Michael Conforto, the left fielder, needs to play every day, and that's who I would have rotate in center field with Juan Lagares. And then the days that Conforto goes to play center, you can have Jeff McNeil play left field. Finally, you'll have Cespedes returning to left field after the All-Star break. The ideal outfield would be Yoenis in left field, Conforto in center field, and Brandon Nimmo in right field. Then Wilson Ramos behind the dish whenever he needs a breather. Travis d'Arnaud is a viable number 2, and you have Devin Mesoraco there to catch Jacob deGrom. This Met team is formidable across the board. The starting rotation, forget about it. deGrom, Syndergaard, Wheeler, Matz, and Vargas, who has been incredibly impressive so far this spring. Then all of a sudden,
The bullpen is loaded. Seth Lugo, who can be counted on for the fifth spot if Vargas struggles, Robert Gazelman, another stud who can be relied on for 2 innings at least when needed, then Justin Wilson, the lefty specialist who came over from the Cubs because he wants to win a championship, Hector Santiago, Luis Avian, Jerry's Familia as the setup man, to the best closer in baseball, Edwin Diaz, at the age of 25. This is Greg Landorf. That was New York Sports and Rhymes. And by the time the Mets return home from Florida, it better be steadily in the 50s to 60s outside. New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft is facing 2 counts of soliciting a prostitute at a massage parlor in Jupiter, Florida. To get the record straight, Mr. Kraft isn't involved in a prostitution ring. He would attend this massage parlor frequently, where he'd receive a happy ending. For a man with 6 large Super Bowl rings, 5 taking up one hand and a giant rock on the other, one could see why he'd seek out assistance. Is this the definition of good decision-making? Not at all. Since Mr. Kraft's wife, Myra, passed away after 48 years of marriage, his decision-making has been questionable on the dating scene. He's also 78. Robert Kraft played a pivotal role in reversing rapper Meek Mill's 30-year prison sentence. He provided the oft-troubled wide receiver Josh Gordon a 5th chance this past season. Gordon, unfortunately, squandered this opportunity due to a disease he continues to battle. The Patriots are paying for Gordon's current treatment, playing a key role in his recovery. The point is, human beings aren't perfect. We all have our own flaws. Robert Kraft is the owner of the most successful franchise in all of sports. One mistake in his personal life doesn't warrant an unhappy ending in his professional one. This is Greg Landorf. That was New York Sports and Rhymes. And please check yourself if you're the type to get hyped over. When I think of Hillary Clinton, I draw parallels to Eminem's character in 8 Mile, B. Rabbit. HRC and B. Rabbit both choked on stage during critical performances, causing them to lose to inferior opponents. Neither of them knew how to dress. One mimicked Kim Jong-un, while the other tried bringing homelessness and style. Due to their inability to perform, we weren't able to witness their true brilliance. Unlike Eminem, Hillary didn't get a second chance to redeem herself. Unlike Eminem, Hillary received the popular vote, which still wasn't enough to win the election. And unlike Eminem, Hillary was running for president, not acting in a movie. B. Rabbit faced a crowd that wanted to see him fail and didn't believe that he belonged on stage. Finally, he seized his second opportunity, knowing this was his last chance to prove his worth. He listened, figuring out how to attack his opponents and expose their flaws in plain sight. If he remained silent, fans would have left the shelter with the same outlook, instead of having their perspectives changed, realizing talent breaks down all barriers. It doesn't matter what color your skin is or what gender you are. If you've got talent, you've got it, and you'll be crowned accordingly. Again, it's a movie, and he wasn't running for president, but he was talking about his real life. He was given a second chance, and thank God he seized his opportunity, as rap, in this country as a whole, just wouldn't be the same without Slim Shady. Hillary Rodham Clinton was also a minority wherever she went while campaigning for president, attempting to achieve a feat that no other woman has come close to accomplishing. According to Hillary Clinton's book, What Happened, Trump followed her closely around a small stage during their second debate, staring at her and making faces, making her incredibly uncomfortable. Then, he literally began breathing down her neck. This made her skin crawl. Hillary chose to stay calm, smile, and carry on. If only Hillary chose a different approach, one that she also wrote about in What Happened, turning to Trump, looking him in the eye, and saying loudly and clearly, "Back up, you creep. Get away from me. I know you love to intimidate women, but you can't intimidate me, so back up." Bravery is shown in many forms. I have no idea what it's like to be a woman, especially one running for president. Yet choosing to stay calm, smile, and carry on as if Trump wasn't invading her space cost Mrs. Clinton an excellent chance to connect with the public. This was Hillary's opportunity to let her guard down and be a human being. The human experience is something that we can all relate to, and it builds trust. The nickname Crooked Hillary could have died right there. Choosing to be politically correct, unfortunately, has set this country back years and cost us the opportunity to elect the most prepared presidential candidate in recent memory. If you have something to say, don't allow fear to get in the way. I'm Greg Landorf, and this is another episode of New York Sports and Rhymes. Joe Mauer wasn't only one of the greatest hitting catchers, he was also a 3-time Gold Glove winner. Despite having a last name that rhymes with power, contact was his strength. He could spray the ball anywhere in the outfield, earning 5 Silver Slugger awards and 3 batting titles. All of a sudden, in 2009, his contract year, he exploded in the gym and at the plate, finishing the season with a .365 average, 28 home runs, and 96 RBIs, winning the AL MVP. As a result, Mauer signed a 7-year, $184 million contract, earning $23 million annually. He hasn't been caught with his pants down. Still, has there been a more obvious case of steroids? It's odd Joe didn't cycle for longer. He probably grew tired of constant anal injections of poison. He's also a family man, and being able to hit the long ball can come at the expense of 2 smaller balls. After signing the contract, Joe never hit more than 11 home runs. The most homers he hit besides his MVP season was back in 2006 when he erupted for 13. In 15 seasons, Mauer averaged a home run every 63 at-bats. Yet, in 2009, he went yard every 18 at-bats. Besides never winning anything meaningful or an inability to deliver in the clutch, Joe Mauer is largely viewed as the Midwest's Derek Jeter. Instead, I see a coward who sought out a needle as a way to increase his power. Mauer's 2009 magic trick will ultimately result in an asterisk. Once the nation's #1 football and baseball recruit in the country, it's a shame Joe wasn't able to follow in the footsteps of Minnesota's greatest athlete, Baseball Hall of Famer, Dave Winfield. This is Greg Landorf, that was New York Sports and Rhymes, and unlike a diluted urine sample, it's been real. Peace. Twitter is the devil. Landon Collins is Satan's latest victim. However, uncharacteristically, the humble 21 did this to himself. To be fair, Landon puts his life on the line whenever he steps on the football field. His work ethic is unquestioned, and his motor never stops running. He's become a fan and league favorite, going from a second-round draft pick to a multiple-time Pro Bowl strong safety. Now that he's entering the last year of his rookie contract, he wants to break the bank. The Giants want to franchise tag him, paying him around $10 million a year while they figure out a long-term deal. This is how the Giants do business, unless you're a transcendent talent like Odell Beckham Jr., which case you're not. Threatening to sit out the entire spring until you receive a multi-year deal isn't wise. Not when LC has been placed in IR consecutive seasons and is burnt toast in the secondary. Tight ends leave Collins in the dust, whether they're running routes over the middle or going deep. His strength has never been in coverage, and he flourishes when playing alongside the proper free safety. This is an area of need, and something the Giants plan to address in free agency. This also costs money. Look outside of yourself and realize the giant picture. Please realize the more BS you talk, the further away a long-term contract walks. Landon is one of the few remaining Giant draft picks and a player who bleeds blue. Money works out in the end when individuals are worth it. Trust the process, LC. You've earned the captaincy, and your nickname rhymes with the greatest. You're incapable of producing at his level. However, you're the backbone of a young Giants defense. Act like it, and soon you'll be in a whole new tax bracket. Landon, band camp awaits, where you'll stretch bread like elastic. This is Greg Landorf. That was New York Sports and Rhymes. I only offer real reels, never anything plastic. At 13-51, this might be the most pathetic season in New York Knicks history. To make matters worse, the Knicks had the audacity to trade their best player, Kristaps Porzingis. They were playing for a record 19 straight home loss when, shockingly, they beat the San Antonio Spurs. How can a team with such a bleak outlook have a future that's so bright? Let's start with the 9th overall pick out of Kentucky, Kevin Knox. Instead of forcing the issue, the Knicks are allowing Knox to get adjusted to the NBA and flash signs of brilliance. Once winning becomes the norm on most nights, the neophytes Pumas will be primed to take full flight. The Knicks, who are allergic to draft picks, couldn't have struck gold with their second-round pick. Something must have scratched that itch as they found their centerpiece in 7'1" Mitchell Robinson. Despite his stature, money-making Mitch is growing leaps and bounds. Go figure, a center in today's NBA is essential to the Knicks rebuild. What's been missing this whole time is a point guard with floor vision and ability and willingness to dish the rock while attacking the rim with reckless abandon. Welcome one-time rookie sensation turned outcast, Dennis Smith Jr., who's experiencing a career resurrection in New York. DSJ has big city swag and a New York state of mind, despite hailing from small-town Fayetteville, North Carolina, just like rapper J. Cole. The same way Cole was mentored by Jay-Z, David Fizdale has taken Dennis Smith Jr. under his wing. Coach Fizz believes in DSJ's untapped, limitless ability, and as a result, is holding him to a new standard. DSJ is relishing this opportunity, bringing in on a nightly basis, playing at a level he forgot and wasn't sure he'd regain. Smith Jr., Knox, and Mitch aren't the only young guns turning heads on the Knicks roster right now. Coupled with this rising talent, with an upcoming lottery pick and a top-heavy draft, and 2 free agents in a historic class, maybe Kevin Durant and Kemba Walker or Kyrie Irving, the Knicks roster will provide a solution to end hunger, feeding fans victories who have been starving going on 19 summers. This is Greg Landorf. That was New York Sports and Rhymes, and trusting the process is the only way the New York Knicks will shine. Washington Post. Costa said, "The issue that is most substantial, the existential issue, is the nature of football itself. The reality is, this game destroys people's brains. You cannot change the basic nature of the game," Costas continued at Maryland via the Washington Post. "I certainly would not let, if I had an athletically gifted 12 or 13-year-old son, I would not let him play football. Bob, with your genetic makeup, I doubt that's a decision you'll ever have to make." Costas didn't stop there, calling out those trying to ignore the facts around the issue, something I've been guilty of in the past, making his stance on the issue very well known. There's this crazy notion that you hear on talk radio and some right-wing sites that this is just another left-wing conspiracy to undermine something that is quintessentially American, Costas said via the Washington Post. There's a word for things like that. There's many words. One of them is BS, because that's exactly what it is. My man Robert. God, is it refreshing to hear the truth coming out of DC. Unfortunately, Costas' employer, NBC, couldn't believe that they were hearing the truth. Bob's opinions are his own, and they do not represent the NBC Sports Group. An NBC spokesperson said, via ESPN, Costas took to CNN to clarify his statements and patch things up with his current employer. "I've been saying these things for the better part of a decade, and often on NBC, in front of the biggest audience, not just in all of sports, but in all of television. Sunday Night Football," Costas told CNN via ESPN, and I think NBC Sports deserves credit for this. Just an hour later, Costas received a text telling him he had crossed the line. Not soon after, he was pulled from the Super Bowl broadcast. I recall the phrase, "It's a 6-hour, day-long celebration of football, and you're not the right person to celebrate football," Costas told ESPN, to which my response was not, "Oh, please change your mind." My response was, "Yeah, I guess you're right." Despite feeling a sense of relief, Costas knew his work wasn't done. He came up with a brilliant idea, a sit-down interview with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. I was looking out not only for myself, because I'd like to do the interview, but I was also looking out for NBC, because that would have taken them off the public relations hook and eliminated all the confusion about them supposedly kicking me to the curb or throwing me under the bus, Costas told ESPN. NBC went ahead and asked the NFL, only to get instantly shot down by Goodell. Costas wasn't sure how hard NBC pushed the NFL with the interview request, yet he had asked to interview Goodell before Super Bowl 49 in 2015 and was shot down too. "It tells you who calls the shots," Costas told ESPN. "The only business arrangement I could think of where the buyer must continuously flatter the seller is the sports TV business. We're pulling up in a Brinks armored truck up to Park Avenue. Mr. Goodell, it contains the billions of dollars that we're going to pay you for the right and privilege to televise your games. But if we've delivered them in a denomination that does not please you, we're terribly sorry. We'll back the truck up and we'll bring it to you in 20s and 50s if that's the way you prefer it." It's a shame this modern-day crusader who wore a suit to work spoke the truth, and it not only cost Bob, it cost us, the audience, from hearing the big game announced by the best in the business. Someone coined an excellent acronym for the NFL. Not for long. Except for Roger Goodell, despite the prime real estate that awaits him in hell, his reign as commissioner carries on. In a time where the president is deathly afraid of the truth and his right-wing constituents' primary goal is to make America white, blind, and dumb again, Bob Costas might be retired, but he serves as living proof that sooner or later, people will hear the truth. I'm Greg Landorf, that was New York Sports and Rhymes, and CTE is a real disease. The next time you think about calling a player soft or taking a knee, please pay respect and realize they're sacrificing everything to succeed in this league.
Recently, I went to a concert at Toad's Place, a music venue in downtown New Haven. Toad's Place happens to be located in the heart of Yale's campus. I drove from New York to see my favorite rap duo Wiz Khalifa and Currency as they embarked on their 2009 tour. I knew something wasn't right when the self-proclaimed Stone Gentleman arrived on time. To make matters worse, as soon as the clock hit 10:30 p.m., they promptly left the stage. Unlike their album, 2009, Wiz and Spitta's delivery felt forced all night. What's crazy is they chose this venue due to past performances. However, something must have changed in the menu, as their give-and-go flow was somehow aborted. This got me thinking about the importance of home field advantage and its effect on sports. According to SB Nation, NBA teams would average 10% more wins at home, turning a 41-win team into a 45-win team, which is enough to cement a playoff berth. Switching to the NFL, Johnny Cochran had an easier time beating OJ's case than opponents have beating the Patriots in New England. Seattle, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, and Minnesota are all prime examples of home field advantage in football. Trends tend to carry over between sports. And get this, the Minnesota Twins and the Pittsburgh Pirates are baseball's toughest teams to beat at home. Go figure. That shows how awful they are on the road. Artists and athletes perform at their best when they're in their elements. Seeing two rappers spit outside of their comfort zone left them on stage, stoned, afraid, and home alone. As much as I can't stand the 12th man in Seattle, there's something to be said for giving your squad an extra boost of confidence when it's their time to battle. Home field advantage would cease to exist if it didn't provide teams with an upper hand, often causing the opposition to remiss. This is Greg Landorf, that was New York Sports and Rhymes, and New York Giant fans, in 2019, can you please show up to MetLife and root for your home team? Dave Gettleman doesn't have a plan. The GM who went through an entire roster overhaul last season, despite battling cancer. A GM who nailed the draft, only to have a spotty free agency, admit his free agent mistakes, and replace them in season by capable players. Impact free agents, so much so, 3 have already signed contracts for next season. This can't be the GM who parted ways with Landon Collins. Collins made it clear placing the franchise tag on him would have been a mistake. Does this GM actually listen? Drafting Saquon Barkley must have been beginner's luck. He doesn't fit any of the Giants' long-term plans. Finally, this GM couldn't possibly have the Giants in a prime position to select a quarterback in this year's draft. That quarterback can be Josh Rosen, last year's 10th overall pick, whose price tag is a third-round draft choice. Or Eli's predecessor can be taken 6th overall, where Dwayne Haskins will likely be waiting. Regardless, the Giants will be ready no matter how the draft shakes out. It's a good thing this GM has no clue how to draft franchise quarterbacks and build them into Super Bowl contenders. Cam Newton, that guy sucks, especially when he went 15-1 and led the Panthers to a Super Bowl. This GM, Dave Gettleman, has a unique style and doesn't care what fans think. Thank God, fans for the most part are clueless, as is the media. Gettleman recognizes and values transcendent talent, hence Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley. The offense is extremely close to contending, especially after shedding Olivier Vernon's massive contract, replacing the off-injured Pro Bowl defensive end with all-pro right guard Kevin Zeitler from the Cleveland Browns, and cap space. This is a perfect example of how Gettleman moves, behind the scenes, acting rather than talking. In order for the Giants to reach their full potential, plenty of work remains. There's no more capable general manager than Dave Gettleman to turn the Giants into immediate and long-term contenders. There are major holes on defense, and with 10 draft picks and free agency, guess what? They can be filled. Just like last season, the Giants will go as far as their O-line takes them. Let's add a new wrinkle. This season, their success depends on the defense's ability to get after the quarterback and get off the field on third down. I have a strange feeling Landon Collins won't be missed on 3rd and long. As intelligent Giant fans, let's hold off on the commentary and allow Gettleman to do his job. It's not as if free agency starts on Wednesday, March 13th, and the draft kicks off April 25th. Just because the Giants aren't being run like folks are used to isn't a bad thing whatsoever. One playoff appearance in the past 7 seasons is what that led to. Instead of creating stories, allow Gettleman's plan to unfold.
So that's what's going to happen either way. This is Greg Landorf. That was New York Sports and Rhymes. And life runs so much smoother when professionals are left alone to do their job at the end of the day.